The following program contains subject matter and language that might be disturbing to some moving to the cloud decision makers that have bought into the marketing hype that cloud will solve all your business needs. Viewer discretion advised. And now, from within Client Studios, it's the Jody and Steve Show.
We've identified some differences and unique characteristics of adopting cloud computing. In this section, we're going to address what you can do about that and how you can master it. So Jody, you had this thing you mentioned about getting your house in order. I think that's an interesting launching point. What did you mean by that?
Yeah, so if you just think about the simple concept of building a house, right? If you have a foundations in the crack of your house and you try to build a house on top of that, you can absolutely expect to have a lot of problems,
Sure.
right? It's the same concept with cloud. If you don't have an infrastructure that has the right processes in place, that has a number of technology components really nailed down, monitored, managed effectively, all geared towards user productivity, well then, and you'd pick that up and move it to a cloud platform, you can expect to have the same
So basically
problems
you're
on
saying
steroids.
if you have a crappy environment that's insecure or not built well and putting it in the cloud, it will be a crappy, insecure environment in the cloud.
Might
be worse,
Yeah,
right?
I'll actually take it a step further than
Okay.
that, because I don't think it needs to be a crappy infrastructure. I think that most organizations have challenges in their environment. They know that they're not enabling the highest level of productivity for a myriad of reasons,
Mm-hmm.
right? So I think that there seems to be this impression that customers can solve some of those problems by
using the
moving
cloud.
workloads to the
Right,
cloud.
right.
And it just exacerbates the challenges they already have.
Well, one thing I see every day is that traditional environments are siloed into the network guys, the storage guys,
Right.
the app guys, the OS guys, the hypervisor guys.
Yes.
There is no distinction in the cloud.
That's
It's
right.
all one framework. It has to be unified, designed, and work together.
That's right. That's why they call them workloads in the cloud, right? And it's what we've been
It's not
talking about.
it's not playloads, it's workloads.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So I think that, when you look at an existing infrastructure, it's important for customers to understand, what are we doing well? What do we need to improve upon? And what do we absolutely don't have insight into? And that's a big one, because we run into that a lot with customers where they're running decent environments, but they know the user productivity isn't quite where it needs to be. Sometimes they're afraid to interact with the users and actually get those real
Right,
answers, and
right.
sometimes they're unable to get those answers.
Right.
There's all kinds of some of those challenges that exist. And I think that the technology pieces, I want to ask you, Steve, what technology aspects of an infrastructure do you guys run into a lot that you could see playing either a positive or a negative role in a cloud migration?
Well, the most negative one is what I said, it's siloing. People
Yeah.
get attached to specialties, and that doesn't really apply in the cloud. You have to have a holistic vision, and you have to touch it. But a lot of it, too, is brute force, solving a performance issue with
Yeah.
more horsepower. You are going to be very sorry in the cloud
Yes.
if you double your processors and memory to try to make it run better, because you're going to be paying twice as much.
Yes.
And sometimes big dollars.
Yep.
A single machine can be $100 or $200 a month. Double it up, add some storage, it's double, tripled more,
Yep.
especially if it's special workloads like SQL. So right sizing, I think, is a huge risk. Security model and identity management you mentioned earlier. If you don't have an identity management framework and solution, and now you go into a public cloud environment, what the hell is going to happen?
Yeah, and you mentioned earlier talking about virtualization. I think it was a really good point, that when you virtualization enabled all of us not to care about resource allocation on servers,
Exactly,
right?
exactly.
VMs.
Right, right.
And that is inherently dangerous in the cloud for
Right,
those reasons.
right.
So I don't know many customers that are in a private cloud that absolutely have a clear handle on exactly what resource allocation needs to be across their virtualization environment in order to maximize productivity
And that
of that
is a
environment.
tenet of cloud. You must go
Absolutely.
into cloud defining a workload, and actually its minimum requirements.
That's right.
I've talked about how when you're a big bad IT guy over the years, you learn to get the biggest server you can to anticipate load.
Yep.
Cloud is 180 degrees opposite.
That's right.
You will not do well if you approach it that way.
That's right.
A lot of things are different.
It's right. It occurs to me too as we're having this conversation that there's a whole nother component there that's really interesting, right? We always talk about in this industry and for years now the gap that exists between the business and IT. Look, the reason that gap exists is simply because the business isn't getting the value that they want to get out of IT. There's 1,000 reasons for that, and they differ between organizations. It's unimportant, though.
Right.
There's that gap.
So think about this. Is IT's the only place where a business gives you a finite budget and an undefined set of goals? So it's basically you have this much money to accomplish whatever we ask you.
Yeah.
It's not realistic, and cloud will not help in any way with that problem.
That's right.
So the disconnect. So here's the theme I'm developing from what you're saying. If you have a good security model, good understanding of workload, monitoring, understand the business, and the business and IT are aligned, you have identity management, everything under control, cloud will be a natural progression to you.
Yes.
You will still have to go learn it, and the way to learn it is do what I did, waste a bunch of money, learn the hard way, study, find experts, learn from them, bring customers on, live it and experience it. You'll be okay. But if those things are not right, the cloud will have no effect on them and may make it worse.
Absolutely. And I think there's another important component there too, right? You can kill two birds with one stone, which IT has got to find better ways to, more ways to accomplish that.
Right.
And if you think about what you're talking about, most organizations don't have all those things nailed down. There is that gap that exists. So by understanding, by focusing on getting your house in order, in other words, shoring those things up, you have an immediate impact to user productivity. Yeah. You have an immediate impact in delivering
before
value
you even
to the
try
business.
to go to cloud.
You have to talk about
yeah,
cloud, right? But if somebody else wants to talk about cloud within the organization, you're prepared to do that because now you have more insight and you have more value. Look, user productivity is the determining factor of the gap between business and IT. If your users are happy with the service that IT is delivering to them, the business is getting value from IT.
So in summary, what I'm hearing is if the business and IT are in sync, you have control of your systems, good understanding of performance, security, management, you're probably ready for the cloud, you can move forward. So Jody, how about perception of the cloud from within organizations, especially IT organizations, and how they feel it's going to impact their job and their career and their future?
Yeah, it's interesting. Whenever it comes down to the human piece, I get so interested, and that's the stuff I geek out on.
Right.
And I think it depends on the individual and the individuals within those organizations and how they think about their own career. What I mean by that is people that I know that own their career and assume responsibility for their career absolutely love this.
Mm-hmm.
I love any kind of emerging technology because it gives them an opportunity to learn more.
Right.
People that don't and depend more upon their organizations to guide them, they're going to have a little more challenge around any emerging technology.
Right.
Cloud is no different. But I think where cloud really gets interesting for Maze in that light is that they can learn so much so quickly and add so much value back to the business, to our point around getting your house in order and providing additional value to the business. By doing that in cloud with a partner, they can do that faster and they actually will become more essential to the business.
Right. I think that's the theme that I see. If you resist cloud and push it off and say it's a threat to me, it will be a threat to you. If
Absolutely.
you embrace it, learn it, and bring value to your organization, you'll become indispensable in the new cloud world.
That's right. So once again, as humans, it's all about perspective.
Right. Well, thank you for listening. And we've identified challenges with cloud, possible solutions. We've identified that if you have your house in order, you're ready for cloud and move forward. If you're not and you feel some help is needed, reach out to Jody from Incentra and Steve from Thin Client Computing, and good luck to you.